Hello, my name's Liam. I'm going to talk about something I'm interested in because I'm bored of Netflix. So I'm just going to talk briefly about systems thinking and concept of systems, because systems are a concept. Okay, so I'm going to use the Meadows' analogy, which was 1 plus 1 equals 2. Yeah? Well, first of all, 1 of what plus 1 of what? Fairly reductionist, not particularly useful in the real world, this type of maths. But what Meadows pointed out is 1 plus 1 equals 2 ignores the plus. And what that's talking about is emergence. So you parts, and when those parts interact together, there's an emergent property. There's something that happens that's produced that neither of the parts produce on their own. It takes the interaction of these parts for that emergent property to come about. And that's what she was getting at with that. So that's essentially emergence. So systems create emergent properties from the interaction of those parts. So following that definition, to define a system must have parts. Okay, so you've got these parts are interacting, there's interaction going on within the system. The parts are interacting, yeah? So then what we need is system creates emergence property by the interaction of its parts and with its environment. So to have an environment, we must define a boundary, okay? So we define a boundary and we say, okay, everything inside the boundary is the system and the things outside the environment are the systems. Sorry, the things outside of the boundary are the system's environment. Traditionally, how we've looked at this is we would draw a hard, fixed boundary, and we would say something like that is police. This is police. And that's the system boundary because it's a system, policing a system. Okay, but let's go back to what we've just said about what systems are. Systems are interaction of parts with their environment, which creates an emergent property. Yeah? What's the emergent property of a police force? Not what you would like it to be, because what a system does is practical. It's what it actually does, yeah? Not what you want it to do, not what you would like it to do, not what you think it should do, not what it was designed to do, but what it actually does, because it's defined by its ability to create an emergent property that therefore makes it a system. Okay? So, what could the emergent property of policing be? I could say crime rate. Is that completely in control of the police? So if this was a system that created the emergent property of seeing crime rate, well, there'd be lots more stuff in the system. This boundary wouldn't work. Yeah. So what if we changed it to NHS? He said, okay, so what's the NHS? The NHS is a system to do what? Well, it's a health system. Well, there's a good argument to say it's actually a sickness system anyway, but let's go with the health system. So we want the emergent properties to be health or perceived level of health is the emergent property. What sort of stuff's driving that? Probably fitness. Probably the food we eat. So they're probably over here. And they're all in this system. They're all interacting. That's driving this emergent property called health. They don't fit in here. They don't fit in this organisational boundary that we've drawn. That we like to control our thinking towards. So what it's doing is, if you focus within this boundary that doesn't really have control over this emergence at all, you completely constrain your ability to deal with that. But if you widen the perspective and come out of the level of the problem to the next level, the system level that you want to consider and say, what's at issue and what is going on? How could we consider this as a system? What would be environment? You could then start to ask some serious questions. What's sort of causing these things to coordinate in this way? What are the themes? What are the patterns that's going on? How does it all come together? How does it all start? Well, start to ask really big questions. And are the leverage points out here that would influence here? And I guarantee those leverage points are much bigger than anything that can be found in here at the level of the problem. Okay? So that's what we think. But ultimately, what you must accept is this is your boundary. It's not the system's boundary. You drew it when you sense made it, and what your purpose was for why you wanted to sense make. That was your purpose, and that is your boundary. Because in reality, there are no boundaries. It's just complexity. And that is why systems thinking is so powerful, and that is why systems don't exist.